Welcome back to part two with Becky and Kenzie. We are here with part two of our creative expression series, and this one is about how to stay motivated as a creative. So, if you're lacking creativity and not feeling inspired to create, how do we get motivated to do so? So, I have here that same thing as tapping into your creativity. It's hard to tap in when you are being clouded by all of the responsibilities of adulthood. It's just inevitable that we get lost in our day to day tasks. So, creativity can get lost in that as we get older. So, trying to always get back into that playful mode, like we said, for tapping into creativity also can be inspiring new ideas. But outside of that, when you're demotivated, use that as your inspiration to create content about that. Whether you're a singer and you create a song about the fact that you don't have motivation, or if you're a painter and you paint something that is just like dark and feels uninspired, create from that demotivation and see what comes of it. Create content around the fact that you're not motivated and you're not inspired, because then you're still creating something. There doesn't always have to be, a spark or something that is, a topic that you want to focus on. If you don't have one, use that as your topic. The next thing I have here is you have to consume in order to create. We get different ideas by looking at what other people have done. I don't think there's really any true original ideas anymore, because so many things have been done before, but we grab inspiration from different things and we create something new out of it. So consume content that you create. If you create skincare, look at other skincare products. If I create cookies, look at what other people are doing with cookies. And it's not to say that you're going to copy them, but maybe it can spark some inspiration about a certain idea that you didn't think of before. So increasing your stimuli to whatever it is you're creating gives you more to write about, to sing about, to create, to paint about, to formulate with. So increasing what you consume, and then letting your mind wander in those mundane tasks. Like Becky said, it helps her tap into creativity when she's just pulling weeds, because her mind is able to wander, and that's not a task you really need to focus on. You're just pulling weeds. Same thing with going for a walk or going for a drive. Obviously, you need to pay attention to the road, but sometimes that is when I get some of my most creative ideas, is when I'm driving, because you're just doing the same task over and over again. You're just in one lane. You're just, your mind is able to wander a little bit. So getting creative in those mundane tasks. If you're taking a shower, don't put the music on and see where your mind goes. Or the opposite, blast music and see what comes out of it. Write stuff down after you're blasting music. Maybe a certain lyric or a certain word gives you inspiration for an ingredient or something. So I think anything that can allow your mind to just wander in any way, in a mundane way, will help tap into your creativity, and get you motivated, at least to find inspiration for something to create. You could even get creative in a different form. Like if your mode of creativity is creating skincare and you can't come up with something and you're not feeling motivated to do skincare, get creative in the kitchen and do something that way. And that can spark different ideas and translate it to what you actually want to create. So that sometimes can help. The next thing I have for helping stay motivated is going a little bit deeper, on more of the emotional side of things. What fears are stopping you from creating? Why are you uninspired right now? Is it because you feel inadequate to create what you're creating? Is it that imposter syndrome? Because I know that always gets me. I'm not good enough for this. I don't have the education to do this. Or is it that fear of rejection, that it's not going to be good enough when I put this out there, or people aren't going to like it? Same thing with fear of failure or success. Are those things stopping you from creating? And then what aspects of your life need more love, so that way you feel balanced enough to create? Because sometimes we don't want to create when there's so many other stressors, emotional stressors in our life, But that's the best time to create is as that stress relief from those other parts of your life that are maybe not feeling so great. And then my last two things for how to tap into some inspiration when you're not feeling motivated is to just do it. Just write something, paint something, even if it doesn't have, a result or a topic, just make something, film something, even if it's not planned out. Don't stop creating just because there's no result attached to it or there's no topic that inspired you. You could literally just, sometimes if I'm not sure what to write about, I'll just write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, and then eventually things start coming out. So just doing it, doing the action of it, even if there's no specific thing that you feel inspired to create, can get the juices flowing. Because it's the same thing I've noticed too. Like when you work out, you don't really want to work out, but once you start, you're like, okay, I'm getting in the groove. Now I'm in it. So it's the same thing like that. If you just start and you just do it, it'll eventually flow. And then I have here as my last tip before we get into Becky's tips for staying inspired is recreating old works in new styles. Sometimes you don't have to create from nothing, from scratch. You can recreate old things, go back to them and rework it in a different style or in a different form. I know I do that all the time. I take one base cookie recipe that I've used a million times over, and I just tweak little things to create these different flavors because I don't want to start from scratch because that's too daunting or I don't feel motivated to. So taking those old works and transforming them into new things can really help when you're not feeling inspired to start from scratch. So how about you, Becky? What do you do to stay inspired?
So I have my notes here that are really short, but listening to you, I do those things as well. So I have here, I'll usually take breaks and rest,
Yeah.
or I'm so passionate about what I'm creating, I won't stop until the work is done. And then I have here, whichever one of these moods helps you stay motivated is the one for you to pick. I find that around like Christmas time,
Mhm.
I get overwhelmed. You wanna, because you're trying to sell all your stuff like with your business, and but I have to create new things. And this year I'm starting earlier instead of like the week before Christmas. I'm like, oh, let me create and launch a new product and create a label and package it, and it. And I think that sometimes for me, my creativity comes at the last minute,
Mhm.
and then I feel overwhelmed and rushed and I have to get this idea out here because I don't want to
Mhm.
forget, or it's a really good idea, or it's a really good product and I want it to be out there now, and I don't want to wait till next year to launch something that I could just do this year. I stay motivated. Yeah, and even sometimes, like, well, with the whole thyroid thing, so that creativity, like, I have never experienced just a complete block, like
Mhm.
no creativity. So, like, on the medical side of this, that
Yeah.
was really hard to go through and to swallow and to even just formulate what was in my head to like speak. So, like, the brain fog. So, there's like a
Yeah.
brain fog aspect of this that is not fun, but if you have brain fog, there are things like the whole mind, body, spirit connection you can do. I've supplements and drinks and juices and acupressure mats and yoga and
Yeah.
meditation, all all things that will maybe help. And I don't know if they're like stress relievers, or maybe it's just something
I feel like
to
it
get
just
your body
balances you.
moving. Yeah,
Yeah.
just like the movement, the flow. If there's stuck
Mhm.
energy, how do
Yeah.
you unstuck yourself or unstick yourself? How
Exactly.
do you get unstuck? So going outside, definitely walks. I will have business conversations with my husband when we go for walks.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, I can't sit at the table and have a conversation when it
Yeah.
comes to business. And maybe that is because I'm creative and I need to be moving so that that creative energy can,
Can
it's not
flow.
just like a
Yeah.
cloud over my head. It's
I noticed,
moving.
Yeah, I noticed too, like a change in environment really helps because you're not, like you said, just stuck at your desk like you are every day trying to create something. You change your environment and then you can get inspired by something else in a new space. Or like you said, talking with others about things can sometimes help you be more inspired because it's like, I'm stuck. I don't know where to go from here. And maybe someone else can offer you something that sparks your brain into creating something new. But I also wanted to touch on what you said about taking breaks because I know I said in here, like, oh, just do it, just keep creating, but the breaks are really important. If you're not at like the mental capacity to be able to create, you have to take care of yourself first. Like we always talk about, that always comes first. So if you need mental rest, of course you're not going to be able to create, to your fullest extent if you're depleted of your energy. So taking those breaks and then coming back to things really does help get that re-inspiration because now you're rested, you're recharged, and you can refocus on, what you were working on. So I really love those tips.
Yeah, and for me, when I say breaks, it's not like, oh, let me just take 5 minutes. Let me just take a day off. My creative break was 8 months.
Yeah,
So I could not function.
I've
And
done that too.
well, yeah, so the next, or probably when these videos come out, and then the next video that we record, I will not be on this thyroid medication anymore. So
That's
tomorrow, which is, you guys don't know what tomorrow is because this won't be time-wise, but tomorrow is my last dose, which I don't know, maybe I'm excited. I didn't sleep well last night.
Mhm.
And so also too, sometimes being creative, if you have an idea or something's on your mind, you might not be sleeping that well. You're tossing and turning because you're so excited, or you just have
Yeah.
this extra energy that
Mhm.
needs to move. I was just like a rotisserie chicken in bed last night.
Yeah.
I was like flip flop, like one side, other side, leg out of the cupboard. Then I was too cold. Like in the cupboard, then I was too hot. So
That's a good point too, because I do that too, where like if I have an idea in my head, I don't want to fall asleep because I don't want to forget it. So having like a notebook or even just your phone next to you to like write it down so that way it's out and you're not going to forget it. And that way you can sleep and rest and then tackle it in the morning. Or sometimes I'll stay up and I'll just start creating it and just do it because I have to get it out. I know I've done that a few times where it's like it's 3 a.m. and I just went through this whole process.
I've
But
had
yeah.
that with Indigo Rose Beauty. That's like around before Violet. I would stay up 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm making
Yeah.
bath salts or like
Yeah,
making labels, or I'm designing things.
right.
Oh, the one thing, um, so how to stay motivated. I don't know if this falls into this, but sometimes, or to get my creativity back. So when I was struggling with creativity,
Yeah.
Canva, I would just go on Canva and just start making like crap graphics. Like not like just I would just start playing around in Canva just so that I could play with images, play with designs, play with the colors, play with fonts, like just playing with different things, even if I'm just like it was like a disaster collage that I'm just like throwing things, like literally just clicking things. Oh, I like this. Oh, I like that. And just clicking things.
Mhm.
Something like that just to
That
get
helps me a lot too. And I feel
yeah.
like that's not wasted time. Like people are like, oh, well, why are you going to do that if it's not going to result in something? But again, detach yourself from that result. Just create something and allow yourself to play and see what comes from it. You could hate it and not ever use it, but then you can find one image and you're just like, wow, that's the one I want to use for all my labels now. So Canva is definitely a great resource. I love using that as well because they give you so many options and you don't have to be like an artist to be able to create a graphic. Like they give you so many easy options and tools to use. So that was a good one. I'm glad you mentioned that.
So there's also with feeling motivated. I had talked about how to get back into creativity. So these are just my notes on if you feel stuck, lack of creativity, and how to get back into creativity. So I have here step away from whatever it is you're trying to create. I know sometimes, especially with graphics, I know I've done this with Kenzie in the past where I'll send her a graphic and I'll be like, I've been staring at this for too long. Like, what do you see? Or does this look okay? Stuff like that. I'll go for a walk. We're talking a lot about going for walks or being in nature. One of my favorite pastimes when I feel stuck or lack of creativity is watch trash TV when I don't really want to be outside, but I need to have my mind occupied. You can do things to Violet's giggling in the background. You can stimulate other parts of your brain, by going outside or even doing puzzles or word games. I know that the problem solving side of my brain, that kind of helps with that. I'll sleep, I'll rest. You can go on vacation to feel inspired, go to a new place, or you can do nothing creative and just zone out. I've done that where I'm shutting down. I can't even. You can rest and recharge to clear your head, and be in a place that you enjoy being to help you to relax. One of the other things I've done is also coloring, drawing, or painting. Even just coloring books with colored pencils can be really relaxing. When I was in the hospital with pneumonia and sepsis, one of my friends who came to the hospital actually brought me coloring books and color pencils, which really helped to take my mind off, like once I could kind of move around a little bit more in bed because I couldn't really get out of bed. But coloring, that really helped to just kind of relax, let my body rest.
Yeah.
With being creative or having a lack of creativity, if you're feeling uninspired, what does that look like? So for me, I will sit with this feeling, especially if it's uncomfortable. Like I mentioned before, I hunt for root causes. So what is the root cause of your lack of inspiration? Are you doing the social media comparison game? Do you feel overwhelmed with what you're trying to do or what you're trying to learn? Everything all at once. Break whatever you're feeling, break that feeling down into the tiniest pieces, even if you think that these tiny pieces are unimportant. This could lead you to your root cause. And then once you find your root cause, you can start putting the puzzle pieces back together on how you can get back to feeling inspired. And then I have I know Kenzie had touched on connecting with your inner child. So one of the things that I did, I had mentioned Louise Hay in the beginning, in part one of this video, but Louise Hay has a guided meditation that I used to do in my sleep to help heal my inner child. And when I was looking for this video right before we started recording, I started listening to it just to make sure it was the right video, and I just started crying. Like, it just, the words, I guess, like when you sleep, whatever, that kind of like hypnosis thing, as you said, the subconscious, it kind of just took me back to a moment. And I think I'm going to go back to listening to this, because now being a mom, and it talked about, your parents, your mother, your father, and a lot of what you said hit nerves in me that I didn't know, I guess, needed to be healed. But that meditation, you can find that on YouTube, and I know we'll put the link, but it's called Assisting in Your Own Healing by Louise Hay. And I think the screen or the display of that video, it's like either a sunflower or it's a yellow background, because there's a couple in there, but it's the one with the yellow sunflower background, just in case, if on Instagram, if you guys can't find it. And then I have here connecting. So when you're feeling uninspired, we're going to go back to that inner child. So connecting to your inner child is also about doing silly fun things, which Kenzie mentioned. I think it's funny how a lot of our notes, I never know what you're writing, or like we usually just like dump our notes like at the end, and I'm like, oh, so if we were repeating ourselves, it's because we're in synchronicity
Yes.
thinking this things. So you can dance at home by yourself. I had mentioned coloring, playing in the dirt, something I just recently did with Violet for the first time for her to experience with the last hurricane that we had, because it was safe to go outside. It wasn't windy, it was just raining really hard, and it was really warm out. So we got to play in the rain. She loved, we got soaked. She
Yeah.
loved, you know, stomping around, and she was giggling, and it took me back, you know. So
Yeah.
she's the child, and then that's helping me with my inner child, and you know, playing, being silly with her out in the rain. Um
And not taking yourself too seriously too. I feel
yeah.
like a big thing to help your inner child, because like kids don't care what you think about them. They haven't had that put into their brain yet that people compare them, you know?
Yeah.
So just not caring what people think and just allowing yourself to be as silly as you want with no judgment is really helps tapping into that inner child.
Like Violet right now is being very silly, having me lift her, and then she's running around the other side. What are you doing? With this, the hardest part of healing childhood trauma is forgiving anyone who's hurt you as a child,
Mm,
forgiving yourself for being so hard on yourself as an adult, opening your heart chakra to give and receive love to yourself and others. And this is something, you know, this, it's not going to take 5 minutes. This could take years. This could take a lifetime to go through the whole range of different emotions. And this is totally normal. You can ask for help if you need it. And you don't, this healing your childhood trauma, this is something that you don't have to do this work alone, because it can be overwhelming. It can be emotional. So if you need help, you know, find your people to help you kind of navigate through that, or healing this, which that YouTube guided meditation that Louise Hay, Assisting in Your Own Healing, is one of the things that really, really helped. I cried a lot, a lot of tears listening to that, just to release.
yeah.
And her voice is just so soothing in that.
Mhm.
Just, it's almost like like your fairy godmother, or like your grandmother, like talking. I always think of like Cinderella, like Cinderella's fairy godmother. That's what that reminds me of,
That's
listening to that.
Yeah, I love this perspective of it too, because when you think about creativity, you're thinking about a lot of times like creativity is associated with positive things, but when these things are blocked in you, when your inner child is not healed, like those are deeper things that could be blocking your creativity that you don't usually think about. So I love this perspective of like going deeper and healing those things so that way you're able to now move forward and be able to create freely with this healed inner child. So I love that perspective. And we're going to get more into blockages and stuff like that on the spiritual side with part 3 of our creative expression series. So we will see you for part 3 in a little bit. Thank you guys for tuning in.